John, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. If you want me to give that presentation, can you give me access to share? Let me see if I have it. Yeah. Are you able to do that? Nope, you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Try now. Do you have?
All right. Yep. All right. Can you hear me all right? You guys got me?
Yeah, we're good.
Everything's cool? All right, great. Thanks. I see Jeff on there too. Jeff, are you going to show yourself or you're going to hide? He's not even paying attention. All right, so thanks for the opportunity to give this. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person, but I'm sitting in South Carolina right now. So we'll get through this talk, and hopefully you guys will get a little bit of appreciation, although there's not many folks, but be a great opportunity for you guys to see what's going on with this project and potentially areas that we could collaborate. So I'm going to talk to you about the Mid-Atlantic Sustainable Biomass for Value-Added Products Consortium. This was a USDA NEFA funded project that started last September of 2020. So we're just getting rolling on this 5-year project. Let me see if I can get to my next slide. The consortium is made up of 6 universities and 2 DOE national labs, a number of industry partners. At this point, when I put this together, we had about 12 industry partners, but this is continuing to grow. We're also working with the USDA Forest Service, Rocky Mountain Research Station, and also the Forest Products Lab. Within the university consortium, this project is being led by West Virginia University, Jinsing Wong at West Virginia University. We're also working with SUNY ESF, the Penn State University, Virginia Tech, West Virginia State, and the University of Wisconsin. Kind of a diverse group of partners working together on this effort. What exactly is the MASBio? When I talk about it in the future, I'll just call it MASBio, which is this Mid-Atlantic Sustainable Biomass project. MASBio's overarching goals are to deliver sustainable and economically feasible biomass for value-added products in the Mid-Atlantic region, and also to promote the regional bioeconomy. Those are the 2 overarching goals for this 5-year project. And the Mid-Atlantic region is going to stretch from New York State to Virginia over to Ohio. So that's kind of the region that we're concentrating in. The objectives of MASBio, there are basically 7 objectives, and they run through 7 different areas that we focus on, or these are what we call large tasks. The first one is what we call the feedstock group. This is looking at feedstock development. Our major feedstocks for this project are willow and switchgrass or warm season grasses. The second task is the harvest and logistics. So that task is looking at increasing or looking at strategies to optimize the supply chain. The third group is what we call our bioproduct conversion group. So they're looking at taking those feedstocks and breaking those down into their constituent products and looking at ways that we can do this more efficiently and perhaps develop new products from these feedstocks. The next is the sustainability group that's looking at the sustainability of everything from the feedstock through the product development and looking at the full life cycle of some of these products. The next group is our system scale up. This is basically using modeling techniques to kind of look what it would be as products are development and feedstock and infrastructure is put together, what it takes to get these up to the point where they would actually work in a bioeconomy. So that group is focusing on those large data gathering effort and modeling of those supply chains. The next is what we call our education group. This is engaging the next generation group here with the orange chess marker. That group is mainly focused on education, and this is working all the way through from grade school and middle school kids through high school, and also into the classroom, where we're into university classrooms. We're also developed a series of projects that are aimed at teaching teachers about the bioeconomy. And one of these was just finished here within the last several weeks, where a cohort of high school teachers went through a week-long session learning about the various aspects of this product and how to promote these bioproducts. And finally, the outreach group, or the group that I'm involved with, is the final group. This is how we're working to engage stakeholders, networking with individuals that are part of this bioeconomy, and looking for opportunities to scale these up and encourage business development. So that's where our group is focused. We're also working really diligently on applied projects. So whenever we can figure out a kind of a project that might be able to take off and provide a lot of exposure to not only people that might be interested in doing it themselves, but also exposure for the project. We're looking for those sort of opportunities, anything around that bioeconomy. So organizationally, you can see each of the tasks here, and I won't go into too much detail because I went over each of them, but we're focused on research, education, and extension and outreach. And each of those tasks, those 7 tasks I went over, fit into that project in this way. So if we look at supply chain and products here, like I had said before, the land and feedstock side, the two that we're looking at as far as for feedstock growing opportunities, we're mainly on the switchgrass and willow at this point. We also have some part of this that's doing forest residues. But the big thing to take away from this, and what I'm going to be talking about, is more on all the way on the right side of the screen with the biofuels and bioproducts. We're starting the first year, and we're working down in this kind of the low-hanging fruit area, the carbon products. So we're looking at carbon products from switchgrass, willow, and forest residues. Once we get through the harvesting, densification, transporting, pre-processing, conversion, we're looking at these products in our group, and then trying to get those into field situations and look for opportunities to scale this up into business development is sort of where we are. Why the MASBio region? Obviously, you know that this area is home to a lot of what we call marginal agricultural lands, and everybody has their own definition for this. Also, a lot of service mine lands in West Virginia and Pennsylvania, somewhat in Ohio and Virginia, but we're looking at developing opportunities in these areas. At this point, our research collaborative already has about identified almost 1,000 acres and over 30 established sites in this region that we've worked on over the years. The goal is to develop at least 20 new sites in the region as we move forward. And in this first year, we've been working on these new feedstock growing sites. Right. So if we go all the way to the right side of that original flow chart that I'd shown you, where we're going to be focused, our first year of focus is on this carbon market side. These are the first markets that we're targeting, and we're hoping to move up that value chain in coming years. Like I said, sort of we're focusing on this carbon market here, and as we progress through this project, we'll be moving up that value chain. For now, so we're using biochar at this point as one of our main carbon products. Why are we using biochar? There's a number of reasons. There's been obviously a tremendous amount of work both in the literature and also at the applied scale with biochar in our region. Using it from everything from a soil amendment up through people looking at it for carbon sequestration opportunities at this point. So we're working through each of these different scenarios, a soil amendment, looking at, it helping for water retention and nutrient availability, how it affects the soil microbiome, buffering capacity for the soil. We're also looking at a biofilter. These are potential here in larger scale efforts to remove salts, heavy metals, also potential for buffering capacity in some AMD situations. And again, in the carbon sequestration side of this project. So some of the projects that we have on the demonstration side in year one, this first year, actually within the last month, what we've been working on. The first is feedstock trials study that's being done by the feedstock group, where biochar is being used is basically as a soil amendment. It's being applied, and it was applied and cultivated into the soil, looking at both marginal agricultural and former mine sites. 4 total sites, 5 acres each. We have 2 crops that are being grown on each of these, switchgrass and willow. And then we have 2 treatments of biochar and biochar that's been mixed with fertilizer amendments. And so this is the main part of the MASBio feedstock research. This will be monitored over 5 years, and everything from obviously from the switchgrass and willow yields through the potential for soil, soil health increasing through the biome, and also looking at ecosystem services, off-gassing and potential carbon sequestration changes within those sites. So this will be an ongoing effort and be measured over a 5-year period. We also have a number of demo sites that are going in. This is one of the larger ones with a company in West Virginia. It was a former mine site, and we've done a stream restoration here. We used biochar and compost, organic compost mixed with the char, and various tree plantings. So at this point, we've probably done about 10,000 feet of stream in 2021, planted, and now are monitoring over 3,000 trees of about 7 to 10 different species. We've used a biochar compost mix at 50% and 10% biochar. So these were added to the trees when they were planted. Again, these will be measured annually over time to look at the growth differences and site effects of the biochar, or site impacts of the biochar in these areas. We've also, as part of this demonstration project, and I don't think I have it here, I'm going to look forward. We have a number of different parts of this. Another thing that we're looking at, we've also been using the biochar on natural, with some cooperators in the natural gas industry. We've been using drones, unmanned aerial vehicles to collect basically multispectral data along pipelines and well pads in Pennsylvania. And we're looking at vegetation success on these sites. So a number of these sites are not being able to be, the permits are not able to be released until they have at least 70% vegetation on these sites. So we've been working with operators using UAVs to detect these sites, and then coming in, once we find an area that has poor growth, these are some of the UAV data. We're actually targeting those with a restoration company using a biochar and biochar compost mix on these sites to enhance vegetation growth to get those permits removed. So we just finished one of these sites just last week on a temporary water line that we'll be monitoring over the remaining part of the summer. We also have some flashy projects that are going on now, some soil amendments for pollinator plantings. This is actually a natural gas pipeline in north central Pennsylvania. The focus on this one is the ecosystem services from the from the char and some of the plantings. This is in cooperation with Ernst. We've been working on these in the past. So basically, partnering with whatever groups we can to promote these pollinator mixes, and also looking at the use of biochar at the same time as a soil amendment and also a carbon sequestration potential. So again, this is a site in central PA that was monitored over the last couple of years here. We also have a number of other projects that we're gearing up right now. The first one, we're using filter strip plantings, not only on compost yard. This actual picture is associated with the West Virginia University farms, but we're looking at feedlot operations, and we're using the biochar in those feedlot operations to filter the waters that are coming off there with heavy nutrient loads. In filter shocks, so the compost is added with a wood chip mixture to allow water to flow through. The strategy is to collect those excessive nutrients. The biochar is able to collect those, and then we would use that biochar in some of the restoration projects then when we move it out of there, because it would have some of those nutrients bound. So kind of an interesting project that we've just started those filtration strips at this point now. We're also working with a large, one of the country's largest restoration companies. They have large nurseries that where they grow their trees to be planting in the restoration projects. They like to bring these in as 1-year-old seedlings and then keep them for a couple of years in their nursery to size them up. So we've been working with them. I have a graduate student that's actively engaged now where we're using biochar and biochar compost mix in the nursery situation. In some of the literature, this has worked really well in nurseries to help the plants survive. So we're giving it a shot in these containerized trees. So just started that project. We have about 300 containers done at this point, and we'll be monitoring those over the next few years as they're grown in the nursery and then moved out into the field. Finally, some of the future projects that we're working on. Right now, we also have some artificial wetlands that we're constructing. We've been gathering water samples from these wetlands and using different types of char as filtration mediums, and looking at the effluent that's coming out of these. So we're trying to pick the right char before we go in and disturb the wetlands. So right now we're doing some lab studies, but the whole idea is to build the sediment catchments from these mine drainages so that they can be built in such a way that we can add char filters to them, and then be able to remove those filters and just replace them and actually work the same way as a traditional biofilter would work, but have the ability to remove those excessive nutrients or heavy metals or whatever else we might be catching from in these areas. So a lot of different projects that are going on in the arena with the biochar and in the MASBio consortium. We're constantly, it's a huge research community out there that's been working on the biochar industry. Our hope is that we can identify more of the low-hanging fruits that might have the ability to procure the char at a price that makes reasonable sense for someone to build a business around it. So that's kind of where we are now, and is to get as many of these projects on the ground as possible so that they can serve as demonstration projects and also community outreach. So at this point, as folks identify projects and bring those forward, we do our best to try to get something going on the applied research side. So I'll leave you guys with that. If you can think of areas, or if you know somebody that might be interested, by all means, have them reach out to us and talk to us about potential partnering opportunities. So Will, with that, I gave you a quick overview of the MASBio project. If anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to help out. So
that was exactly what I was looking for.
Okay, great.
Are you doing anything with silt socks?
Yes. Yeah, we're using the silt socks to as basically the container to hold the char. We are at this point we've used wood chips. One of the problems we have with the char, if it's too fine of a char, it doesn't let any water through, right? So we've been using chips as a mixture in there to kind of promote that water flow.
I'm gonna ask this question shamelessly right now, but do you know anybody that's in the market for some switchgrass down in your area or anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, in our area, we don't have the greatest markets right here where we are, but I know that that one of the markets that we've been trying to work with is the Genera site, which is, you know, farther to the south of us. Have you ever spoken to them?
No.
In
Yes,
Tennessee?
Oh, I haven't. Will has.
I have.
Yeah. Yeah, they've looked as far as trying to cooperate with us as far as central West Virginia, looking for feedstock. So
That's Genera is one of the topics on our business meeting for today.
okay.
Other questions for Sean?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, so can you speak to the production process with the biochar as far as maybe what the state of the art, you know, process looks like today, and then maybe touch on some of the costs associated with that?
Boy, that's Scott, that's a great question. I mean, that's all over the board. You know what I mean? People make the char, if you're familiar, people make the char at home in really low cost you know, kilns that they build themselves at home. I mean, that can be done that way, all the way through. The people are, you know, we've worked with some various individuals that are, there's, you know, tens of millions of dollars in their paralysis unit. So it runs the scale. Our goal here is this is something that we want to be able to do that would be an add-on to a business that's already in the market of processing some of these feedstocks. So that's kind of where we see it as being an add-on. We have not really identified any stable supplies from the Mid-Atlantic region at this point. In fact, our largest, we had to procure basically had to procure about 15 tons or 20 tons of char to get going, and that came from California. So the markets here are slow to develop. Now we are starting to get char in our area. In our last load, I just picked up 15 cubic yards from one of our cooperators here in the region, Metzler Forest Products. So we are starting to see some of those, but as far as cost, the costs are still, if the ability to use it as a soil amendment alone is not there, because it's going to range into, you know, around $1,000 a ton. And if you're using a couple tons to the acre, you can do the math. It's not feasible at this point. So hopefully I answer your question. It's a hard one. Like, as far as state of the art, there are some really good paralysis systems out there that you can control. You know, you can dial in the type of char that you want to make. You can dial in those properties. At this point, we're looking at the low-hanging fruit and saying what char can we produce at this level that makes sense financially to be used in some of these higher end markets. So we have not started dialing in char yet, Scott. So.
Anybody else? John, thank you. Great.
Yeah, no problem. That was easy.
Okay. Thanks again.
Yep, no problem.
Enjoy your vacation.
All right, I will. Let me know if anybody has any questions. You can email me right there, my contact. So I'd love to work with you guys.